Kaitlyn Kelly.
Look at that skirt. She could fit the whole bridal party under there, my mother says, hurling this comment towards the television. She looks dumpy, says Dad. I chomp down on a fistful of popcorn, just nodding my head vigorously in agreement. My family is never short of an opinion, and Friday nights were our time to shine because we could watch Say Yes to the Dress. This is a TV show set in a store called Kleinfeld's in New York City, and it's about 35,000 square feet of bridal Disneyland. And there, women hem and haw over jewel-encrusted corsets while family members with deep pockets shell out their net worth for an acre of tulle. I can't wait to get your dress at Kleinfeld's, chimes Mum. I was 12, but I was all in. And being the youngest of the family by a long shot, and most notably the favorite, my parents had high hopes for what my life would look like, and so as a result, so did I. It was written in stone that my wedding would be no less than a glitzy affair at a country club with 200 guests in attendance and me in a fitted designer mermaid gown. And my husband-to-be, well, of course, he would be handsome, wealthy, and he would love sports just like my father. What more could a girl ask for? My desire for the big days started to crumble when I went to my first friend wedding at 21. This was back home in my hometown in Ontario, hosted at one of the city's flashiest Italian halls. And I enter this gilded ballroom, and it's double the size of the usual setup. And I am hit with the realization that this is not a wedding. This is a Broadway show produced by two Italian families who are banking on good reviews. Not one open bar, but two. Not one table of Nona cookies, but three. A tiered chocolate fountain, a 7-course meal that left me so full it was like my party dress had taken me hostage. Not only that, but they paid extra for the bread dance, which is exactly what it sounds like. A sea of pimply, underpaid high school students with baskets of crusty dinner rolls held high over their head, just dancing around the tables. Defeated. Each one of them wishing they just got the summer job shucking corn instead. I was one of 700 in attendance, privy to this display of Valhalla decadence. And by the time the speech is finished, I left. And I'd noticed on the way out, I'd only seen the bride and groom once the entire night. And I knew in that moment, this was not the kind of wedding that I wanted. It didn't even seem like the one they wanted. But as you know, it's never easy saying no to producers. By the time I hit my mid-20s, I was newly single. And not only that, but I'd recently moved to Paris. Still, my parents were eagerly trying to set me up with every eligible bachelor back home, from the guy who fixed their garage door to the young doctor who'd recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. They were desperate for me to come home and start a family. And just when I thought I would be a spinster forever, at 30 years old, I got engaged. There was no elaborate proposal in front of the Eiffel Tower. There wasn't even a ring. It was really just a promise. And while we started to excitedly tell our friends, I held back sharing the news with my parents. I was afraid to tell them I didn't want that say yes to the dress wedding that we dreamed up anymore. So when I did get up the courage to tell them, it was 3 months later. And I was so nervous that I just let them ramble on for about an hour. And when they were just about to hang up the phone, I blurred out, "We're engaged!" And we settled the date with the town hall, so it's going to be the 16th of July. At this point, the 16th of July is only a few months away. I say, I know it's kind of last minute, so if you can't make it out to Paris, we understand, but we would really love for you to be there. "Oh," my mother says. "Oh" is usually a precursor to an opinion. Oh, the 16th of July. We have a funeral that day. I'm just wondering who you're planning to kill in order to not show up to my wedding. But she clarifies, it's a memorial from COVID. Now my dad jumps in, you know what? I think we've got that reception that night. Dave's daughter's getting married. Mom, oh, that's right. And the memorial's out of town, so we've got to wake up early. We got to be there for 11 o'clock. Dad, well, then they're going to have a luncheon after. We're going to have to stay for at least a couple of hours. Mom, and then we're going to have to drive back home. We've got to change, maybe take a shower if it was a hot day for your father and he sweats out his suit. It's happened before. It has happened before. And then we got to drive back out to get to the reception in time. I mean, we are free every other weekend, the whole rest of the summer, but you have to pick the 16th. Okay, I say. Crazy idea. Why don't you tell the family friends, the distant relatives that your youngest daughter is getting married and that you regretfully cannot attend the otherwise planned wedding and funeral? We'll think about it. There's something to be said about trying to make your parents happy. Growing up, my parents were always so supportive of me that I kind of spent my whole life just trying to validate their love through the choices that I make. And as I grew older and my worldview started to expand, I noticed myself sort of softly and slowly breaking all these unspoken agreements we had about the trajectory of my life. But this time, I felt that maybe I'd pushed them a little too far. A year and a half earlier, I brought my first girlfriend home to meet them, and they were kind, they were very welcoming, but I couldn't help but feel they were a little uncertain as to whether this was all, just a flash in the pan kind of thing. Maybe it was just a phase. And now, a phone call later, this girlfriend is my fiance. And my growing concern became 3 months was not going to be enough time for them to come around. Not after all those years we spent building my dream wedding. I didn't want to lose my parents to a funeral. I didn't want them to regret not coming 6 months or 6 years down the line. When the big day came, I did not get my dress at Kleinfeld's after all. I said yes to a discount designer dress that I bought online and tried on alone in my apartment. Our wedding rings were not bespoke with diamonds. They were colorful gemstones that did not cost 3 months' salary. We didn't have 200 guests in attendance, but we did have 60 of the wonderful friends that we'd met while living in Paris. And after the wedding, we all rode the city bus to the reception at our friend's brasserie, which was decorated with a cheap collection of high street garlands and pom-poms. And while we did have baguettes, there certainly was not a bread dance. In the end, my parents did end up coming to our wedding, and my dad did sweat through his suit and have to change as expected. Maybe my wedding wasn't what they'd imagined, but for my wife and I, it was perfect. And the one thing they couldn't deny was that the love in the room was palpable, and that was the only expectation I cared about living up to. Thank you.